A labyrinth, hidden in plain sight. The facade of the White House may look familiar to you, but its architectural evolution is like a 2-century-long game of chess. This is the untold story of how the heart of democracy was built. Today, to uncover the mystery behind this engineering marvel, which carries the elegance of the 1800s on the outside but houses today's cutting-edge technology at its core, we must travel back through 233 years of fires, sweat, and historic tragedies. We are going down to the mud where it all began, to the very foundation, to the deepest depths. We are revealing what has been hidden in plain sight, the things you never knew. The architect of this massive work, James Hoban, received only $500 and a gold medal as a prize for the design of his life. This colossal construction began with nothing but human muscle and raw power. The cornerstone was placed into the foundation by the Freemasons in a secret ceremony. It is such a mystery that, to this day, no one has been able to solve exactly where that stone is buried. That first stone, which once held the building upright, hides inside today like a lost spirit. As the building rose through a massive workforce, the collective sweat of enslaved laborers, hopeful immigrants, and indigenous people, every inch was literally sealed with human effort. Yet, behind this magnificent rise, there was a relentless battle against nature and chemistry. Sandstone from Aquia Creek was chosen for the main body. These stones were soft enough to turn into a masterpiece in a sculptor's hands, yet too heavy to be moved. Scotland's finest stonemasons crossed the ocean to breathe life into those giant blocks. Every floral motif on the facade was carved patiently by hand. Completing a single ornament took years. The mortar holding this massive weight together was cooked in a kitchen from hell. Oyster shells were burned in giant kilns for days at the highest temperatures to be turned into lime. This process emitted not just scorching heat, but an unbearable, heavy stench that settled over the capital. By 1795, America's largest stone house finally began to show its silhouette. But a deadly secret was hidden inside this giant. The skeleton within the magnificent stone shell was entirely wood. This made the building as vulnerable as it was enchanting. The only way to waterproof the roof was using molten lead, the most dangerous technique of the 1790s, and it was a death warrant for the workers. Glass was such a luxury that 1 out of every 2 panes arriving from Europe would break before reaching the dusty roads of DC. The final touch that held the walls together and prevented the plaster from cracking under the weight of time was horsehair mixed into the mortar. By 1810, this massive work finally seemed complete. But 4 years later, the British Army arrived at the door and set the building ablaze. The wooden skeleton inside that immense stone shell turned into a giant furnace within minutes. The heat was so relentless that the century-old stones on the facade began to expand and crack in agony. When the fire died down, what remained was a heavily damaged wreck, with smoke and soot soaked into its very marrow. Cleaning efforts failed. Soot stains were etched into the pores of the stone like black seals. At that moment, to hide this permanent damage, the entire building was painted white with a thick layer of lime. On that day, the name White House was officially born from the ashes and destruction. The flames left by the British have died down, leaving nothing but scorched stone shells. President James Monroe is determined to see this house rise from its ashes, but a fatal flaw is about to be repeated. As the massive stone walls climb toward the sky, the interior is rebuilt exactly as it was. A dangerous wooden forest. They are trapping a wilderness inside a stone box. New fireplaces are carved into the walls, 1815's version of high-tech. More fireplaces mean more smoke, more soot. But in this era, fire is the only thing keeping the president from the cold. As the years pass, the hunger for elegance eclipses the need for survival. Monroe wants more than a house. He wants a statement. A palace. French-style, gold leaf and grandeur begin to bleed into every room. By 1817, high-tech communication arrives. A single tug of a cord in the dining room, and far below, a servant is already pouring the coffee. In 1824, the house finally finds its soul. The iconic north and south porticos are raised. Imagine the tension. 30 feet in the air, massive stone blocks are balanced on hope. One slip, and the stone shatters. The Industrial Revolution doesn't knock, it breaks down the door. Gaslights replace the flicker of candles, but they choke the air with heavy fumes. Then comes the miracle of running water. No more buckets carried across the lawn. The kitchen evolves into a machine. Coal-fired heat pulses through the hallways. The fireplaces, once the heart of the home, are now merely for show. By 1891, the ultimate shock arrives: electricity. President Harrison and his wife are terrified of the new switches, often sitting in the dark, afraid of the invisible fire. To retrofit a century-old stone house with wires is an architectural surgery. But the stairs are no longer the only way up. The elevator is here. The White House has become a living laboratory. But at 1902, the house is drowning in its own work. The gardens are sacrificed for offices. A temporary executive office building is dug into the earth, the birth of the West Wing. Taft wants a room with no corners. The Oval Office is born. Upon the floor sits the resolute desk, a gift from a queen, carved from the timber of a ghost ship. But beneath the surface, the house is dying. The original 1817 roof is rotting away. The White House has become a death trap. In 1927, the radical cure begins. The old timber is ripped out. In its place, massive steel trusses are hoisted into the sky. The silhouette remains the same, but for the first time, the president lives inside a fortress of fireproof steel. 1942. The world is at war. The White House becomes a bunker. While the public sees offices, men are digging through the DC clay under the cover of night. A 760-foot secret tunnel, a bomb-proof emergency center. The house is now the nerve center of a global conflict. As years passed, the building met technology and modernized, but it began to succumb to its own weight. By 1948, the structural limit had been reached. The massive stone walls were pulling apart, so much so that every truck passing outside caused the house to shake. Finally, a piano crashed through the floor into the level below while guests were present. This wasn't just an accident. It was the building's letter of surrender. The White House was sinking into its own depths, back into the ancient swamp it was founded upon. There was no turning back. The most radical and magnificent restoration in history began. The century-old stone shell was left in place, but the interior was completely gutted with surgical precision. In the middle of the Red Room, which once hosted grand receptions, giant bulldozers were now working, digging up the dusty traces of the past. The building was not left to the mercy of that ancient swamp. It was anchored directly to the bedrock with massive steel piles. This operation was not just a repair, but the art of building a house within a house. Inside, a massive bunker reinforced with concrete rows, invisible from the outside. Deep underground, rooms were dug to withstand even nuclear storms, along with a 230-meter pitch-black tunnel leading to the Treasury Building. The White House was no longer just a residence. It had become a technological fortress rooted deep into the earth. Today's pristine painted White House is actually a mask hidden behind 233 years of perseverance, ashes, and cold steel. This is no ordinary structure. It is that magnificent and ancient secret, hidden in plain sight at the very center of the world, dying 5 times, but waking up stronger every time. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next episode with another hidden in plain sight truth.